Pradeep, how are you?
Nick, I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm excellent, thanks. I'm really good. I'm so happy to have the time that we can chat and everyone to get to know who you are and kind of what you do, because you've been kind of like behind the scenes of ONUG, for the last couple of years, and so nice to have you out front.
Yeah, and now what? I've been with Onuk for 3 years, maybe a little more,
Yeah, yeah.
and we have achieved a lot of things together.
We really have, and I'm really proud of that. I'm sure, like the community is extremely appreciative, of that, work as well. And we'll get into that stuff in a little bit, but I think at first is that I want to give everybody kind of the opportunity to know like who you are, kind of what you do, and so let's take a little bit of time to kind of talk about your journey, like your career journey, and where did you start, and kind of what brought you to Cisco, and also now what are you doing at Cisco?
Ah, that's going to be a long journey. Probably an hour is not enough.
No, it's got to be abbreviated. We don't want to lose
Yeah.
everyone.
So basically, I did all my education in India. Then I started working in India, back office applications kind of thing.
Yeah.
If people still remember, COBOL was the programming language. That's where I started.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Uh, uh, Worked with a couple of multinational companies, came to US, worked with IBM on as a contractor on some of their networking or low-end networking, I will call it,
Yeah.
platforms, and then did a minor stint with Apple just before Steve Jobs joined.
Mm.
Okay, and from there moved over to Cisco and have been with Cisco for a
Oh
long time.
my. So, all right. So, two quick questions. When did you join Apple?
So I don't remember the exact date, but Emilio was the CEO at that point of time when I joined
Oh,
Apple.
okay.
And I left Apple just before Steve Jobs came back when Apple bought Next or whatever
Yeah.
the hardware company Steve was working on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like we might have been. I think it's. Let's see. This had to be in the late '80s. Yeah, had to be late '80s. Maybe '88, '89. Oh my God! Like, talk about dating yourself.
Yes, somewhere around that. The Maxwell was the operating system
Oh,
which we were working on.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I had a job offer from Apple. I was living on the East Coast, and Apple offered me a job right around that time frame, and um,
Mhm.
and I turned them down because my wife didn't want to leave. We have all this family on the East Coast, and she didn't want to leave family on the East Coast, So I didn't, I didn't take the offer, But if I had, we might have met a couple of decades earlier,
Yeah.
over at Apple.
So I was in a similar situation, but a little bit different because I was also on the East Coast. I was in Long Island, California, Long Island, New York.
Yeah.
Okay, and I wanted to move to West Coast because my wife got a job offer on the West Coast.
Yeah.
So that was the reason I basically joined Novell, if you remember them.
Of course.
Uh,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Work group.
uh, for 3 4 months. So I came with Novell to West Coast and then quickly moved over to Apple.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you had the direct opposite of my experience. I, you
Yeah,
know, I had
yeah,
I had the gravity on the East Coast. You had gravity on the West Coast, kind of drawing you
yeah.
over there. Yeah.
Actually, I had no gravity on any coast. It was my wife had to move, so I had to tag along with her.
Well, the ultimate gravity is our wives. And
Yeah,
I think we're gonna go where they want us to go, and I'm
yeah,
I'm really good with that. Very good with that. Okay, and then IBM. So that was before. So that was probably like early '80s time frame. So that was still SNA. Maybe
yeah. It was mid 80s, but I was more with their mm, personal computing division in Florida, not in RTP,
Oh,
doing SNA.
yeah. Oh,
And what we were doing is we were building these uh, communication card, 4 port, 8 port, serial 232, 422, that kind of stuff,
oh,
communication card for connecting devices.
okay. Awesome. Great journey. So then, what brought you to Cisco then after Apple?
Uh, Networking was a so at that point of time when I was at Apple, my passion was distributed systems, operating systems,
Mm,
basically overall systems.
yeah.
Okay? And that's what brought me to Cisco, because Cisco networking, you need to work on both entire stack, operating system to all the protocols,
Mm.
and a lot of distributed computing, distributed systems. That's what brought me to Cisco at
Yeah,
that point of
awesome.
time.
So kind of the technical, the problem that we were trying to solve at the industry at that time, what
Yeah.
kind of was the
Yep.
kind of that gravity that kind of brought you in there. Well, I tell you, it's been
Yeah.
an amazing ride. Like Cisco is like one of the great American companies, and you have to give Cisco so much credit for what it's achieved over these decades. Really from like the early '90s, on. It's like so many competitors have come and gone,
Mhm.
and trying to like just take market share or really compete with particular products, which is healthy. Obviously it made Cisco better, and but it survived, all of that, and grew, during that time frame, exponentially, so yeah, and still clearly a powerhouse, a multinational powerhouse, as well. So
Yeah.
then,
But
go ahead.
one thing I will say with Cisco is we always ensure that the standards are defined and we are not doing anything wrong with the internet, because that's really important. Uh, and the company grew with the internet, as we basically have now open source is becoming a bigger thing, but at that point of time, the IETF, the IEEEs of the world, we wanted to make sure that Cisco is not doing anything proprietary. We always wanted to make sure it is a standard. The industry is growing, the market is growing. Otherwise, you basically can't grow the market that fast. And that have been the motto for Cisco from day one, that don't do anything bad with the internet.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like, thank God for that, as well. So like obviously there's like everyone was on the same page around TCP/IP, and trying to eliminate all these other proprietary protocols like Apple Talk, from your old Apple days, SNA, IPX, Banyan Vines, like all of those protocols that were all proprietary, and so kind of giving way to TCP/IP. And so I think that was great to have that leadership, there, because we really don't have anything like that, right? Okay, so that is a stability point, like in our industry, that we have open communications. We have TCP/IP, which is a standard, for computers to be able to speak to, and we've been able to really scale and build that in a way that is probably the biggest system that we've ever built in humanity. And so, and that's great testament for like everybody who participated in the industry, at that time.
Mhm.
I'm wondering now, as we kind of move into like, kind of a new era around the AI networking era, or AI in general, and also AI networking era, is that we don't have. So I guess what I'm thinking of is that I'm thinking of a couple different stages on how products are now starting to come into marketplace. First stage that we're starting to see, there's a lot of like Gen AI, products, and these are products that essentially really have some kind of operational, Gen AI, plugins to make the configuration maybe a little bit easier and make the operation of it a little bit easier, but really around how the product internally works, not so much. So it's really kind of a peripheral Gen AI, support. And then there is kind of like a pre-AGI, product set, and these are kind of products that are being built from the bottom up with AI. So and there'll be a few of these products actually announced at ONUG in the Dallas timeframe. And then I think then once we have these products that have kind of native AI, really rethinking, of them, from the ground up, then as they start to communicate with each other and synchronize with each other, then we really start to have a kind of an AGI infrastructure, very similar to like what we have right now with FSD and Tesla and those cars. Like I've owned a Tesla for a long time, and so um, it the progression of that has been just impressive. So so all right. So this is my question. Sorry for like kind of the long setup for the question, Pradeep. But we don't have standards, or a common approach towards how those AIs will work. So, are we kind of in a period where we may just see lots of companies implementing their own AIs, based upon, their engineering talent and also their priorities and so forth, where they don't interoperate. So we don't have some interoperability kind of standards around AI for different companies' products. Or is there some activity that you know of, that I don't, in the industry that is now starting to think through that. So there's kind of synchronization, sharing of maybe machine learning or sharing of, whether these are logs or state information or so forth of these devices. So they actually can behave and act as one large neural net.
Okay. So first, I want to say is that companies have been doing AI products for a long time before even Gen AI was there,
True.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Means
Watson. Look at that.
Cisco has been delivering AI into the product for quite some time now, right? And the other thing is, I think the way to think about AI, and I will put sort of, we can put the AI into three buckets, or two, three buckets. One is the machine learning or traditional machine learning, which we have been using for quite some time now.
Right.
Okay. One area which doesn't get that much light, and I will come to your question in a minute, Nick,
Hmm.
which is rules-based engines.
Yeah.
Rules-based engines have been used by banks and
Hmm.
insurance companies for fraud detection for a long period of time. But I think network industry is a really good industry where rules-based engine can be used for regulatory purposes. Are you compliant to a set of rules which you
Right.
we need to do, or even for troubleshooting?
Mm.
Okay, that troubleshooting is nothing but a set of rules. Those rules are set in your head, right? Oh, if you can't connect to the network, first ping whether you can talk to anybody else, and if you can ping it, it's not a connectivity problem, it's something somewhere else.
Yeah.
So using those rules-based engine is really important for us, and that's what we have been looking from a Cisco perspective. And then comes the Gen AI, and what do we do with the Gen AI?
Mm.
Okay, when it comes to standardization, the few things are happening. Okay, one is, how do you get the data from the devices? Okay, that is getting standardized,
Yeah.
right? So there are Yang models, and there is a bunch of work happening in the IETF,
Hmm.
okay, around the data modeling,
Hmm.
right? So that sort of is getting standardized. That means now at least multiple vendors can report the data into similar format on which you can operate
Yeah.
on.
That's huge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, okay. The other thing which is starting to happen is there's some level of, we are starting to look at is, can you do federation of AI? Okay. And the way to think about it is, if I understand that the problem is not, if I can do some AI in my domain,
Hmm.
and if I starting to understand that the problem is not in my domain and is the adjacent domain, then can I go back and ask my adjacent domain to either collect more data,
Hmm.
okay, or run some kind of AI to tell me what is going on.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is an interesting case with respect to when we talk about, say, uh, uh, wireless 5G, your cell phone,
Hmm.
right? As you're moving around, right? Some of the data will be in the Wi-Fi domain, some of the data will be in 5G domain, some of the data may be in the device domain,
Good
right?
point. Yeah.
And if somebody is having a problem, I think the federated kind of things will work better here. So I'm starting to see more federation kind of things happening right now. The standardization more is happening more around the data models and how do you get the data models out,
Mm.
rather than having the AI, some kind of common AI right now. And I think, given where we are with the AI right now, we need to do sort of a crawl, walk, run.
Yeah.
And in most cases, we are either towards the end of crawl and starting to walk, or a little bit earlier in crawling. And doing standardization in that state may basically may slow down the adoption.
Mm.
So we want a little bit more adoption to happen before we can think what to
Yeah.
standardize. Okay, telemetry we know has to be standardized. We knew from SNMP days that's what we were trying to do,
Right.
right? And that's what we are doing from with Yang and all other stuff. So that's
Yeah.
where we are today.
Okay. Now well, that's really good. So, yeah, I'm so with you on standardized data schemas, and how do you report, on what is the state information from heterogeneous devices of the same thing. So we did that work, within ONUG at for the CSNF work, the Cloud Security Notification Framework,
Mhm.
right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
we had a lot of all the cloud providers that report security events differently, but it's the same event. And so
Yeah.
now we have a canonical model, there. If we can do something broader, if the IETF is working on that, and there's a lot of, industry support around it, that's a beautiful thing. That's a really important activity where we can actually now have state information across a wide range of different companies and vendors around the infrastructure itself. And then now that's the canonical model, and then we can actually then start utilizing that data to kind of run AI algorithms, or at least use it for like training and learning, various different
Mhm.
models. So I think that's really great. And then the federated model, that's actually that makes a lot of sense as well. There's not going to be like one like TCP/IP is systemic, right? It's on every machine. Um, but having a federated kind of AI model makes more sense because different products or different domains, have unique properties, unique rules associated with them, and so
Mhm.
they can concentrate on those domains and those properties, but be able to kind of communicate with other, AI domains, as well. I think that's the model that you're talking about,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even on the data model, I will say CNCF has been a good thing because we got a canonical model. But even if you think the way, or at least the way I understand CNCF is, certain things are made common, okay, and but there is below it, you still have preserved the original event which came through,
Yeah.
because the way we want to ensure is that at a high level we can quickly figure out where the problem is happening, or what is happening. But when you want to go and start diagnosing the problem,
Yeah.
then in some cases a common model can hinder a little bit of diagnosis. You might have to go to the native models to see exactly what was happening.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's the model which we did with CSNF, right? Common model, quickly understand basic attributes, figure out where the problem is, what might be happening,
Yeah.
and then we start going and debugging. You can go into the native model and look at the native model.
Yeah.
So I think same thing we need to do even in case of AI, right? Some amount of common model so that everybody can understand it. And then this is where actually federation becomes really interesting, because then you are doing AI on your native data structures.
Yeah.
Okay, and native data structures are never going to be same. They're going to be a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
So then you can basically, what are you seeing? I don't need to know your native data structure. I don't understand it, but you can give us some information so that we can use it. And that's the way I see it.
Yeah, that's great, and also thanks for bringing it back to CSNF, because you're right. We kept the native formats, available
Yeah.
too, because like all of a sudden you have some exception, and when you're canonicalizing, you're trying to reduce, right? And when you
Hmm.
reduce, you're not going to have full fidelity, of that data,
Yeah.
So you need to kind of go in there, and when the source of the problem can't be answered with the canonical, you have to go into the source, So that makes
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah,
That makes
yeah, yeah, and
yeah.
that's the tension we need to answer. That you want to commonalize every as much as possible so that you can look at everything in a broad view.
Mhm.
But when you need to basically go debug, you really need to find a forest.
Yeah.
Not find a forest, but find a tree.
Find the tree
You
in there.
need that native model.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. No, okay. No, that makes perfect sense.
yeah,
So, all right. So
yeah.
then, Cisco, not, I don't want this to be kind of a Cisco, podcast. This is really, a podcast for you, Pradeep. But I think we can kind of like draw a conclusion that probably Cisco is also working on the kind of the data structure, and then also maybe a federated approach for federated AI. It could be like two activity areas that we might see.
So from a common data structure perspective, we are working with ITF, we are working with our customer, okay,
Hmm.
to create these common, industry calls them Yang models.
Yeah,
ITF is defining Yang models for configuration. ITF is defining Yang model for uh, operational data. So we are basically working on the Yang model. Whole industry is working on them.
yeah,
Okay, and at least I wouldn't say Cisco's view. I will say this is Pradeep's view that I think uh, even within Cisco, many teams are working on AI and Gen AI.
yeah.
Okay, and personally, I believe that federated model of AI Gen AI will work much better than a standardized view of AI Gen AI.
Okay, great. That's all right. So great. Got the model.
Yeah,
Actually, really love it. As well. It has
yeah,
a kind of a ring of truth. To
yeah.
it. As well as Pradeep. So let's. I want to maybe kind of shift this discussion a little bit. Keep it on the AI topic, but there seems to be like two markets. There is the market for AI infrastructure or AI networking that supports AI workloads, right? And so there's a lot of discussion that's happening in the data center right now about InfiniBand or Ethernet or
Mhm.
even just at the you look at the latest NVIDIA processors that I guess Blackwell and how they're doing networking within it. Actually, they said something really interesting too. Is that like their view? You need to do computation inside the network, and you also need to do synchronization, across CPUs. And you can see that that's even though that's in a fabric, of on a board, but you can see that just being expanded out, out on a board. So there's one kind of area around infrastructure to support, AI applications, and that has very, particular requirements. Then there's the other, market, and they're not disjointed, but the other market is that AI is making its way into existing products. So we'll see AI firewalls, we'll see AI routers, AI switches, come in the marketplace. Obviously, there's a lot of talk in the industry about AI PCs, coming into the market, as well. So a whole new range of products, that are kind of natively built, with AI. So I guess in the question of that, and those products seem to be more focused around trying to solve some of the problems that we've never been able to solve like in our industry before. And so with a lot of focus around operations, like for example, on our AI firewall, maybe eliminating a lot of the rules. Or automating a lot of the rules so that you don't have to like manage all that. And if you're like a large bank, you got like 10,000 routers, and you might have a million rules on that. So it's like it's a non-trivial task to deal with that. So so I think that there's that market as well. So so first of all, before I actually get to the question, is that the way you see the market, or do you see like another either a third market, or you see those combined as
So,
the same?
so I think there are three things to think about it. Okay, one is networking for AI.
Hmm.
Okay, that's the whole thing which you talked
Yeah.
about, right? So that market is there. How do you basically connect all the GPUs and other CPUs to talk to each other in a low latency, low loss, whatever the requirements happen to be.
Right.
Okay. Then I think the second market is AI for networking, right?
Hmm.
Which is how do I create the firewall rules and do how do I basically improve the efficiency of the NetOps or SecOps?
Yeah.
That's basically what I call AI for networking.
Yeah.
Okay, I think there might be a new market which might be just opening up.
Hmm.
Okay, which is sort of not networking for AI or AI for networking, but also how do you ensure that as customers are starting to use AI provided by the various AI vendors,
Hmm.
okay, the data leak protection, that their proprietary information is not going to the cloud whose AI they are using,
Mm,
or sort of ensuring that doing some level of AI routing,
mm-hmm.
that if you basically are asking a question which is a general purpose question on who is the president, then it goes to one kind of AI, versus if you are a medical institution and asking for a specific medical question, there may be another LLM which might be tuned for that kind of stuff.
Huh.
So that is a new area which is starting to come in, which is more around how do you do uh, how do you ensure that you have some kind of AI proxy?
Yeah,
Okay, the way we in the beginning, very early days of networking, we had proxy. You have some kind of AI proxy
yeah,
which ensures that you are accessing the right AI resources in the cloud.
yeah.
Okay, so that's just starting to come in. It's uh, not many products out there. Many companies are working on it, but that's another area which is starting to
That's
come in. So I see
interesting.
it those three.
So that's like almost like AI routing. You know,
Yeah, you can call it AI proxy, AI
Uh,
routing, whatever you means. There will be a new industry buzzword created, but that's the how I see it. Yeah,
okay, all right, so we have these three kind of market segments.
yeah.
So the question is, okay, and I think it's like there's a assumption like in the industry, and I do buy into the assumption is that this is going to move much faster, and it is moving much faster than the internet moved in terms of
Mhm.
deployments. Maybe not an order of magnitude, but clearly, a scalar. Maybe three times, five times, faster. Um, and then the question then I start to think about is that we know that developers, who are in the large enterprise, they're now focusing on how do we basically train their AI models with enterprise data, and so they may shift from kind of like writing code into like actually training models, which will accelerate the amount of AI applications tailored for a large enterprise. And if that happens, and it will happen at some point in time. The question is like speed. Then does the model does the two models out of the three accelerate? So networking for AI, and then also the AI proxy. Will that basically
Mhm.
outpace the other market, which is AI for networking? So I'm kind of thinking through like which one of these markets will accelerate faster. Will we move in a really quick way? Companies now being labeling themselves AI first, just like we did cloud first. Companies, a
Mhm.
couple of years back. And just like with the cloud, that offered a very different way of doing kind of networking and security. And so, will AI do that? And will we basically have a departure from kind of the norms that we've had in our industry to really creating something really brand new, and so in most large enterprises you might have kind of a legacy infrastructure supporting legacy applications. You have cloud infrastructure supporting cloud applications, and now you might also have AI infrastructure supporting AI applications. So
So my take is that the way I think about it is that there are not going in an enterprise, there are not going to be specific AI applications. Okay. The way I think about it is that AI will become part of every application. Okay. So
mm,
uh, any application which people develop, okay, there will be different user interface connected to it. So rather than having a more dashboard GUI kind of user interface, people will also there maybe or may not be a GUI interface, but people will also have some kind of natural language Gen AI kind of interface.
mm,
Okay, the application itself may rely on the data and AI. Okay, to give you better answer or make you more productive. Okay, so I don't see enterprises creating just AI applications. I think what is going to happen is that AI will be built into every application.
Mm,
Okay. And so whatever you do starting tomorrow, any application will you use will have some AI built into it. And over a period of time, that AI will become smarter and smarter as things become uh, uh, cheaper and available better, and they consume more resources. Uh, the market for AI applications, or market for, oh, I need to build AI into application, that's a broad market. So that will always be a much, much bigger market, because
yeah,
think about how big is the application market,
yeah,
and not only the commercial off the shelf application, but enterprise internally developed
right.
applications, right? And those enterprise internally developed applications, not every enterprise is going to have enough expertise to include AI into the product,
Yeah,
right, or into their application. So I think there is a huge market for tooling on how to include the AI into my application. So that is going to start to come in.
yeah.
Okay. So I think the networking for AI and AI for networking will always be there.
Mm,
Okay. Uh, at the end, AI for networking then becomes same as AI for application, because AI is integrated. Networking, if you think at a very high level, is an infrastructure or an application which people are trying to use, and AI is built into it, because that network management station have AI built into it.
yeah.
Okay, so
Mm,
that's the way I think about it. The I would I'm not seeing people and enterprises will develop specific AI applications. They will be integrating AI into their
yeah.
applications.
Okay. That's interesting, take. So it's like you're really just
Yeah.
seeing more. It's not going to be very specific AI apps like that we're used to in the commercial, or in the consumer space, like Midjourney or ChatGPT, and many others. But it could just be existing applications that utilize AI. Maybe a good example of that is that, and I really just can't wait for this day to actually happen, is that like voice menuing systems when you call a doctor's office will go away. It's like you just basically say what you want and it'll figure out the routing and get you to where you need to go versus like pushing all these buttons to kind of get to it. So in essence, you still have a customer service interface, but now that interface has become a lot more people friendly, and so AI enabled.
Yeah, well, the way to think about it is, today you go to OpenAI and say, write me a paragraph because I want to do such and such. Okay. Uh, those things will become part of your editor. In the editor, you will type something and editor will suggest something.
Yeah,
Like VS Code and bunch of other applications are already there, where you can basically write a comment and the copilot can come in and fill in the code,
yeah,
right? So those are the kind of things. If you basically have your uh, directory application, or your enterprise application, where you're basically looking at your uh, access or salary or whatever happens to be, right? Rather than going through the GUI and stuff in your enterprise web browser, if you're connected to VPN, you will be able to say, I want to see my salary thing, and it will automatically pop up, that kind of thing.
yeah,
So it still might be fed by specific AIs which are running in the background in the cloud,
yeah,
but the front end won't be a very specific AI front end. Front end will be more the what the applications you are using. So it could be a Word document processing engine, whether it's a Word or Google Doc or whatever happens to be,
yeah.
and in that they give you more AI
Yeah,
capabilities.
yeah, I'm totally with you on that too. Like even like on LinkedIn, like you have the option to like you write a post, you can click the button. Hey, do you want AI to kind of like rewrite this for you? So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah. So there are those like embedded AI gets embedded into everything. Is really I think
Yeah,
what
exactly.
really
That I see that happening more than people writing specific AI
yeah.
applications.
It'll be interesting to see if that changes. Like I know like obviously I don't know we have a lot of the financials and the financials have been working on this for a long time. Like, and for them, one key area is around kind of wealth management. So it's like, you take a profile of a particular individual, their risk profile, like their net worth, and then what is their, what is a good distribution of that portfolio, around, various different equities and as well as like bonds and or fixed income versus equities, so doing
Yeah.
those kinds of things. And then also clearly on the security side of things, um, there's just so much there, it's like it would be really great if what we see here, so moving a little bit away from the application space and getting more into the infrastructure, is that on the security side of it, we can start to rationalize, simplify that security infrastructure with all of those tools, like that industry has been built by a new threat, a new product, a new threat, a new product. You got to train people on that new product, then you mitigate the product, but you still have, well, you mitigate the threat, you still have that product, and so it's just a stacking of lots and lots of different products. It would be really nice to see a simplification happen there, so that you can actually trust that infrastructure a lot more, and I think that would be really the one of the key outcomes, here, like over a period of time, is that you get simplification and then you get greater trust, of that infrastructure. Trust for both the developers, as well as trust for the infrastructure people who are managing that, is, would be, I think, a great outcome. And I think a lot of folks are looking at um, OpEx reduction, so like, I'm not sure if you've seen this, or not, Pradeep, but there's a good, one or two handfuls of like CEOs in like Fortune 100 companies that have started up shadow AI organizations. And that is really kind of like spearhead their AI initiatives, both on their kind of their products, that they're selling to market, that the brand supports, but also as an alternative to the CIO. And the main thinking there is that there's they view it as that they're being bought into a large OpEx reduction opportunity with AI, and there's a little hesitation to think that the IT organization will take advantage of that because it might be just too threatening. So I'm not sure if you've seen that, if you've run across that.
So uh, you talked a lot. So a
Sorry.
couple of things there. But one is from security perspective, we think the same thing, which is AI for security. That's the thing which you talked about. Can we simplify the infrastructure? Uh, One of the things which I talk about, especially in the security space, is we keep on adding things on security, we never remove anything.
Right.
And the reason is because nobody really understands what was done before. And if you remove one thing, people are scared of removing anything, even though that thing may not be doing anything,
Mm.
right? Okay. By having much more declarative security or much more declarative policy statement, and then converting them into what goes into the system, will allow you to basically simplify that infrastructure, because now you know what are you trying to do in the security realm, rather than these creating policies which nobody can really understand
Yeah.
it, right? So that's uh, but we also see
Touche.
that as you bring in AI, it is going to bring its own security issues.
Mm.
Okay, if you look at today with Gen AI, a lot of people are starting to do uh, uh, the malware injection through prompts.
Yeah.
Okay, so because prompt is a text, so since you are inputting a bunch of text, your AI can get confused, because you can uh, put the text into some format where you understand that AI can get confused with it.
Mm.
Okay, so we need to also think about how do we secure the AI. So again, using AI for security, as well as making sure that the AI which we are using is secure. So
Insecure.
that's another area which is going to come in.
No.
Okay, when I think about from the efficiency perspective, I think the efficiencies are going to come in. That's why we are bringing a lot of AI. Okay, but on the networking side, I don't believe that the AI will bring in the efficiency. Okay, but as of now, there is so much shortage of the networking people. Okay, that the companies now are not able to deliver on what they wanted to do from a digitization of their company perspective, or provide the services to either their internal customer or external customer. So there's a
Yeah.
huge backlog.
Yeah.
And the problem is the people which we hire to create the new set of services and new functionality. Okay, those people basically gets loaded with day-to-day troubleshooting. Oh, my network is not working over there, so go troubleshoot it. With AI bringing that efficiency, now we will be able to use those people to deliver better services, the backlog which you had for creating the new services for your employees, your customer. So I don't see this reducing the headcount. I
Yeah.
see it taking the networking, the security, the whole industry, even the application to the next level. That's the way I see it,
Yeah.
rather than AI being, oh, now AI has come in, so I need to reduce my headcount by 10. I don't see that
Yeah,
happening.
no, I agree with that. I totally agree with that. I think, it's like there are like what, almost three-quarters of a million security engineer recs open worldwide.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that,
large number. I don't know the exact number, but large
yeah,
number of
yeah,
racks
and the
open.
same thing on the networking side. So we know that we'll never close that gap because we don't have the pipeline, to fill it. So I'm totally with you on that. I also don't think that, there's a good saying that we've been utilizing a lot, and it's that AI won't take your job, but people with AI skills will, and so
Hmm?
it's like you have to become much more efficient. You got to increase your own efficacy, and the way that you do that is you gain AI skills and
Hmm?
understand these new tools, and so you can actually use them and be proficient, kind of in using them. I think the only area that I see, might see reduction is in operations, managing the operations of both the knock and the sock. And I think that would be a good thing because also that's places where there's big shortages as well. And I think, it'll be really good for the machines to start, kind of managing the machines and having humans, obviously being involved, for exceptions and to, before there's going to be a period of gaining trust, with any kind of new AI system that gets put in place, and so that will be kind of a gradual thing, but as you start to build trust, in those systems, then you allow it to do a lot more things. And so, like, actually, it was interesting too because like Cisco had, what's it called, network access control? Was it called NAC? Or maybe it was called
Hmm?
MAC,
Network access control.
right? It's like there was and this was a long time ago. This was like it had to be, oh, I don't know, was it 2010, some around that time frame, where, okay, you would have some kind of anomalistic signature that would be detected in the network, and then you would create a quarantine VLAN, and then you would push that, that traffic flow in there to remediate that. And so ingenious, mitigation technique, but a lot of folks were afraid to use it because they just didn't know, there was a trust, issue. And so I think the industry is going to have to really kind of work on how do we trust these systems and gain confidence, within them so that we can actually really just feel comfortable in using and utilizing them. And go ahead.
I think that's where the AI community has not done a good job. Okay, because they basically are giving us certain results, but they don't tell us why those results came. When we are, at least from Cisco perspective, when we are thinking about using, or wherever we are using AI, we want to ensure it's a crawl, walk, run,
Yeah.
right? So if we are basically telling the customer that certain things are not right, okay, we also tell them that why did we detect those things are not right? What was the source of data, or what was the input which we used?
Hmm.
Because if we can show them the input and then uh, our diagnosis based on that input, then they will trust this more than us just coming and saying this doesn't look right. And then if they have to go dig themselves why this doesn't look right, they're never going to do that.
Yeah.
So I think AI industry also need to basically start thinking about how do they explain the things which they are basically saying are anomalies or whatever you want to call them.
Mm,
Okay, the more we are able to explain, the more people will trust, and then more we will be able to have close to a 360 loop.
mhm.
Okay, today we are not ready for that 360 loop, and in some industries like finance, medical industry, we will never have 360 loop because uh, regulatory purposes somebody still will have to click, yeah, I looked at it, it's good.
Right.
They may just look at it quickly rather than doing deep analysis as they build the trust, but that button still will be there.
I know. It's interesting too. It's like we had the NSA, NS, NSF, come to own it a couple of years ago. Doug Comer kind of hosted them, and we had these presentations, these private presentations by folks who are running infrastructure for all the major banks, and I'm not to go into what that project was all about, but it was interesting. Someone from one of the banks, I won't mention the bank, mentioned kind of the change order process, and this was all due to compliance. So, is that in order for a change to happen in the network infrastructure, you had to get over 100 people look at it and check the box. You know, long process. But the only good thing about that is that at least that process is known, and if it's known and it's rules based, you should be able to automate it. You should be able to move it kind of quickly, but that was a major delay in any kind of change management that they were doing
Mhm.
in a regulated entity.
And I think this is where the AI can come in and say, look, you wanted to do all of this. I have checked this rule. There is nothing. Okay.
Yeah,
I've checked this rule is working. These people were talking to this application. They are still able to talk. Nobody new is able to talk the application. And then those 100 people can quickly look at the rule which they are supposed to look. They don't need to do anything. As long as the AI said, yeah, it works, and they have is starting to gain confidence, it can move rather than taking 30 days. It can move it same day because everybody just check marks, yeah, as long as this is done, I'm good.
yeah,
So I think AI will improve the efficiency, but in some of the regulatory industries it's a good thing that we go slow.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, I think Pradeep. I think we're kind of like well, about to land the plane. Here. I think what I'm like really happy about with this podcast, I think you gave everyone a really good understanding of like kind of the intellectual horsepower that we have behind the collaborative and about the work that's being done there. And you on the steering committee, with others. Um, like I think the two pieces of work that I'm most proud of that we've done there is the kind of the introduction of the SD-WAN marketplace early on in the industry, and also the the CSNF work. It's really nice to see Splunk supporting that and Oracle supporting that. We have a capture the flag, program that's happening at the spring meeting, which is super. Just like it's really just great to see like just a lot of people getting engaged in that and to actually utilizing those. But I don't know. Did you want to share anything about your experience, like working with the community?
No, it's been a great experience. But what I was going to say is, I think the work uh, uh, team is doing on AI and NOXOC and is starting to think about the maturity model and where do the companies get involved depending on their maturity. Because not every company is going to start over here. Some companies need to start here and then slowly build up because they may not have expertise, the systems may not be ready. So all that stuff needs to come in, and I think ONUG is doing a great service for the community
Yeah.
in that space. Okay, and I'm really looking forward this time around to see all of you guys in Dallas and see what the AI work is, because you guys are doing a very focused AI summit.
Yeah, I'm so pumped. When we have it's being hosted by Gene Sun over at FedEx. We have Tom
Yeah.
Gillis doing the keynote. For it. We have Mike Taylor over at WWT. He's basically heading up that $500 million AI lab that WWT has.
Mm,
We have Latonia Smith from Chubb. She has all kind of process engineering, and so she's going to be talking about how Chubb is now kind of applying AI into their workflows to try to get efficiencies there. We have Alex Schulman doing kind of a keynote panel around risk mitigation. So you basically detect some malware, and then you have an LLM that creates code to mitigate that, and then deploy that. And we'll see how trustworthy people are with that, you know. And then we have a really good, also another keynote panel around the whole knock sock integration, which is really being enabled by AI. So, and those are just kind of like just the just the kind of the morning sessions. There are like 50 sessions. There's lots of skills, AI skill sessions that are being run. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. We really redefined what we were doing because that's what the community really wanted and really needed. And there's such a thirst of data requirement. People just need to understand this space, and they don't know if they're moving too slow, if they're moving too fast. They don't know how to proceed. And so I'm hoping that we were able to satisfy a lot of those kind of like requests that we've been getting from the community. So
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to attending and uh, seeing what all you guys have put together. So
awesome.
good luck with it.
Great, Pradeep.
Okay.
Hey, Pradeep, thank you so
Okay.
much. Thanks for being such a thought leader in the community, as well. It's so appreciated. So thank you.
And Nick, thanks for inviting me here.
Oh, you're
It was
welcome.
a great experience.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Thanks for plugging
No,
in.
okay.